I think most often, most individuals, whether in their work life or in their personal life, are leveraging the GPTs for administrative, right? Cleaning up the email, organizing your desktop. And it is making that time collapse a bit for you, right? So you're not
Mhm,
having to do it and you don't need to watch that pot boil. You can go on about your
mhm.
creative endeavors and it's going to handle it for you. So you're outsourcing what I call the most menial tasks that are not value add for you.
Welcome to another podcast with Elite Expert Insider. I'm your host today, Melanie Johnson. And as always, we bring you the most impressive people that you're going to learn from and just fill your bucket. And I want to talk about billions, not millions, billions. This lady is so impressive. She has helped build not one, but more than one company to the $1 billion mark. Lena McDearmid is here with us today. She's worked with Disney. She's worked with Hess. She now has her own company, River. And I just realized she's going to South by Southwest. I'm going to go up there. We're probably going to connect up there as well. And she thrives about culture, and culture is so changing now. And she is like the expert on that. So I'm going to bring Lena in. Lena, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Melanie. Thank you so much for having. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about how you got from starting with Disney and even how
Not
that door
Disney.
opened to where you are today.
Not Disney. It was Green Sky. I think I don't know where the Disney is in there. I started my career. I'm not a young chicken, so my career has been 20 years in the making, and it started in finance, in Wells Fargo, CarMax, all of those kind of early, large, established companies,
Yeah.
and then moved into financial technology in a startup called Green Sky. And when I started, I didn't even know what the word startup meant. I was a young woman in my career and got to join that company quite early and enjoy the build and the rise of that over the next 7 years, which went from private company to growing to multi-billion, I think on 1 billion valuation, so a unicorn status before we went IPO in, what was that? Gosh, 2018? Goodness, that's so long ago. And so then after we hit IPO, which is a significant milestone, and the growth
Yeah.
that we experienced through that was fantastic for me as a
Yeah.
person who grew up in that and understanding how to grow at that speed. After that, I kind of took a bit of a break and then decided I wanted to found my own company in financial technology, and that's Moment, and that was the company I founded right before River, which is obviously who I am with now and what I created. And that was such a fast growth company as well. And we kind of took Atlanta by storm. And within 4 years, we created a technology platform that was servicing consumers in the lending space. And we had put probably within 4 years, $1 billion of loan originations into the market. And so it was fast and you're holding on by both handles and your hair is blowing, but it's just one of those environments. And startup energy is one of those that I find extremely exciting to be a part of. And so that was my Green Sky at a moment. And then River is where I am now. And so we can talk about that if that transition makes sense, Melanie, or however you want to jump into the River.
Sure. River kind of focuses on culture. And what are you finding are the biggest obstacles in culture today in companies that you're running across?
Yep, absolutely. Great question. So River is a culture advisory firm, and it was the one I wanted to create. I took about a 6 month hiatus after I left Moment and recognized the same companies were reaching out to me that had always leveraged me as a consultant or advisor. And they were coming into my stream and they were saying, hey, we're really struggling with operations, or we're really struggling with these milestones or hitting these revenue targets. And they would often
Mhm.
come to me and say, we think the problem is X. They think it's the leadership team or they think it's the technology that they're leveraging. But when they would
Right.
invite me in and I would evaluate either the system, the team, the product, the market fit, et cetera,
Mhm.
I always came across the same patterns. And it was really down to the way that the company is communicating and sharing and aligning on values and visions,
Mhm.
and then understanding where the friction was inside the organization that was preventing the company and teams from being able to be successful in achieving the goals that they set. So when you say, what are you coming across most? The most common is most people are confusing culture for perks. So I often give people a little formula. I'm like, if you can swipe it with a credit card, that's not culture, that's a perk. So benefits, team lunches, offsites, fantastic. benefits for the
Mhm.
employees and the organizations. But culture is the experience that the employees are having inside your organization and the way that they're having to operate to do their job and the impacts that either allow it to be successful or not successful and the environment that is conducive to that. That is the culture, and it can be completely changed. It is a living ecosystem and organism.
So peel that onion back a little bit about, is it the actual tasks that they're doing? Is it the people they're interacting with? Is it like, oh, the guy that manages over me, he's having bad days every day and I don't like working for him? Is it the attitude? Or it's like, I hate the software that they're doing and I don't like doing this process. It should be so much better, but they won't let me change it.
Yeah,
So kind of give us more of a deeper dive into that.
absolutely. So the answer is yes, all to
Hmm.
some of that. So I would say, here's an example. Let's say you are on a product team and you've
Hmm.
been asked to hit a pretty gnarly deliverable. You've got an output that is
Yep.
due on a certain due date. And what is being asked of you is either unrealistic. You understand that there is information that you have that
Yeah.
puts that potential at risk. And so the
Hmm.
next opportunity is, do I have the safety, psychological safety in my workplace to raise this risk and say that to a higher leader than I and say, hey, this isn't a good
Yeah.
idea. We need to roll this back. We need to reset the time frame. We need to make a different adjustment. Can I say that? Can it be heard? And am I safe in my truth, or do I have to fear for retaliation
Hmm.
or any sort of feedback? So if I am fearful, nervous, and I want to hold that truth in, that
Hmm.
risk alert, then that tells me I don't have psychological safety either in that team, in that environment, in my work. So what that is doing is two things. The person is not feeling comfortable in their role to be able to vocalize their information and
Hmm.
share risks.
Yeah.
And it's also signaling that the company is now no longer listening to the people I call the truth tellers. So when the truth
Hmm.
tellers go quiet because they're not able to truly raise risk and be safe in telling the truth, then we're now not living in an organization or a team
Yeah.
where we can align and we can truly be like, this is what's going on, this is what is true, and this
Mhm.
is how we need to operate. And so when I've come into organizations and I evaluate, I often first look to the teams and the organisms, and I call them organisms
Mhm.
because it's how people organize.
Yeah.
Are we really raising the risk? Do you feel safe to tell the truth here? What happens when you do? How is accountability held and
Mhm.
honored? And what are the feedback? Like, what's the feedback that people are getting?
Right.
And so the way that people are editing themselves or not saying something is a sign and
Mhm.
signal of culture. And the way people feel about their safety is a significant indicator of psychological safety, which is, we can spend an entire podcast talking about that's the most important ingredient in an organization that signals success.
Psychological safety. How important is language? I think we had this shift of, you can't say this, don't say that, use these words instead
Mhm.
of that. And how do you train leaders to have the right language that's going to create that culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, one of the things I noticed that I kept doing even in my career is when I'm processing something, I really want to be able to have the language for the conversation or my experience. And so, part of
Mhm.
what River does is when we come in and do a diagnostic of a team, we truly
Yeah.
talk about, let's name the thing in the room because we're all
Mhm.
experiencing it. And if we can all align on what it's called, speak it out loud and really identify it, not associate ourselves with it, not even give it like human values, but just say, hey, we've got some microaggressions that are happening in this team meeting where people are talking over one another, or we are not listening to when people disagree, we're immediately defending versus let me just
Yeah.
mirror back what you said versus immediately defending my point. Just talking about, we're not listening, we're just talking. And so language is critical. Now, yes, we've had the landscape change a bit on how we want to
Yeah.
be identified and what's the most respectful way to communicate. And that matters. And the reason it matters is because people do their best work where they feel safe, seen, validated, and heard. And so if
Yeah.
I'm not able to be my full self and authentic in who I am when I show up for work, you're not getting the best part of me. You're not getting
Mhm.
the portions or all of me that you hired me to be able to do, which is a
Yeah.
disservice to the employee and also the organization. So
Mhm.
it's incredibly important that we have language to navigate the tricky parts of working inside of an organization. And companies that are comfortable leaning into that and recognizing they need help outperform others by 3 to 5x in certain situations.
Yeah, I almost feel like people need language training.
You
If
absolutely
there is
do.
do we have a language training boot camp for you?
We,
All right.
we absolutely do.
Switching up a little bit, I want to talk about AI. I use AI a lot in our business, and it's shortening time frames depending how much they're embracing it.
Yeah.
And is you talked about it having creating more human conversations. I'll use the example I had Chat or Claude Cowork clean up my desktop
Yeah.
the other day.
Yeah.
And I just let it go. And I thought, okay, I could sit and watch it. I feel like when I'm creating stuff, I'm like, I can sit and watch it create it. Or actually, I need to free it up and do something
Yeah.
else. Like you say, use your brain for creative.
Yeah.
How are you seeing things going on at your level
Yeah.
with companies using AI?
Yeah, great question. Multiple levers there. I think most often, most individuals, whether in their work life or in their personal life, are leveraging the GPTs for administrative, right? Cleaning up the email, organizing your desktop. And it is making that time collapse a bit for you, right? So you're not
Hmm.
having to do it and you don't need to watch that pot boil. You can go on about your
Hmm.
creative endeavors and it's going to handle it for you. So you're outsourcing what I call the most menial tasks that are not value add for you. The way that AI continues to stack and what I'm seeing, good and bad, I'm seeing some organizations, especially in the early beginning of AI in 2025, 24, we were funding AI inside of organizations. We're like, we're going to do AI and all of our technology. We're not going to need any of our developers. We're going to be able to save so much money in our overhead costs. Look how fast we're going to go. Bang, bang, boom. And in a perfect world, that makes sense. What I'm seeing in an application is the adoption is not following that. So we're investing a
Hmm.
lot buying all the material, right? Buying all the programs and buying all the systems to come in and
Yeah.
do that in our organization. But what I've seen that we need better support in doing and
Yeah.
where river has been a part of some really great opportunities is helping and alerting that transition inside the workforce, because the first energy that I saw in a couple of the first companies I worked with that did it is there was an immediate pushback in the
Yeah.
employees because they had not been braced, educated, or told what's happening, what their role was going to be impacted by with this new expansion. And so
Hmm.
fear was the first thing that showed up. And so when employees are in fear, then they are less likely to expand, to investigate, to try, to raise their hand. They're just wanting to stay protected. And it's
Yeah.
not that the AI was the problem or the tool or the system that may have been brought in. It was really the conversation that should have happened weeks, months leading up to it so that we could have gotten
Hmm.
buy-in with the employees so that they could have been a part of the research team of it, the testing of it before we rolled
Yeah.
it out. Small samples in your organization. Let's try it in finance first. We've got some low-hanging fruit that we could
Hmm.
insert this solution tool and it could recover a lot of lost hours that we're spending that would free up
Hmm.
our finance team to focus on more human tasks that don't
Hmm.
require or don't get served from an AI system that's better service for management and higher creativity, like you said. So initially, it was a massive adoption, massive push of rollout. The integration
Right.
was clunky. And then there was very little adoption from the internal workforce. And there was a lot of what I would call psychological and mistrust. Psychological safety and mistrust were
Yeah.
impacted first. And that continues to ripple and
Yeah.
it's getting better, but it's coming with education at the leadership level to pause, talk about it, evaluate it. And then let's talk with our teams. Let's share it with our employees.
Yeah.
Let's address the elephant in the room that there's going to be some fear. There's going to be a with them. What's in it for me, right? And
Hmm.
how does my role change? How can I skill up? Are you going to be part of developing me in this new skill? Because that's been such a value add in the organizations that have
Yeah.
trained up these leaders and trained up these employees and been able to show that their career path, their development path is going to be improved long term,
Yeah.
not just in that organization, but in their overall career. And if you can meet them like that, then you get adoption and you get use. And if it's okay to fail as you're trying out these new tools and
Yeah.
report the failure with safety, then you're going to get
Yeah.
additional buy in and additional adoption. And then you're going to see your velocity in your test feedback quicker and more honest than in the organizations where that participation has not happened, then
Yeah.
you're not getting true feedback and you don't really know, is it working, is it improving your time, are you learning how to do it, and is it creating natural value?
That makes so much sense. And I have to say, the other issue is that the tools are changing. So there's
Mhm.
one part of the employees like, am I going to be replaced?
Right.
So maybe I don't want to adopt this or bring it in because it could replace me. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to put up a border.
I'm gonna make
And
it
then, like,
seem like it's not working. I
yeah,
may not try to identify other areas within my role that this system tool could replace the effort I'm doing now. I
right.
recognize it, but we're still in the stages. We're still in early for this. The tools, like you said, are changing, they're evolving,
Every
they're
week.
getting more intelligent. And
Hmm.
AI's been around for a very long time, but not like
Yeah.
this, not language models that are being able to be compressed and be smaller and
Hmm.
it's evolving. And so it's going to continue to do so. And it needs to have the conversations and the education around it first before we're just implementing them. Like the failure rate in integrating AI into large organizations right now, and I don't want to misquote, but I want to say it's up in the early 80% of
Yeah.
integration and adoption of AI in large organizations. And it's because we didn't handle the psychology of it first. We didn't handle the culture of it first. And
Right.
that's really where River kind of sits in that integration and in deployment kind of ceremony.
And think about, so we're in a new age, a new era with AI, and we're also in a new age of leaderships. People from my demographic are going to be moving out, and there's these new young leaders. What do they need to know starting today? What would you arm them with going in?
So great questions. Thank you, Melanie. I'm excited about the leadership handover that is here, that is coming. Most because I do see a changing of the guards. And what that means for me and what I'm recognizing is we are really understanding the value of leadership and its
Hmm.
impact on the organization's success and the employees within
Yeah.
it. And what I'm finding to be the strongest metrics of leadership always really, but really where people are also agreeing with me is in the empathy and the way that we're able to communicate as leaders of what's going on in the organization. Honestly,
Hmm.
being able to be accountable for your own actions, your mistakes, and just naming them out loud. But we are looking no more towards, do you have a great resume? Did you come from a Ivy League school? That used to be the things that got people jobs, and that's why you were a leader, or you were really great at your one job. And so we just gave you a team of
Hmm.
people. We didn't evaluate if you actually liked managing people. We're good at managing people. Where we're
Hmm.
moving into is the leaders that are really leaning towards the human side of leadership and the responsibility of developing, coaching, giving feedback, having empathy as you're having conversations that are tough, and then owning your own failures and shortcomings as a leader and being transparent about it is where I am finding the strongest teams with the strongest morale, the highest rate of like employees staying versus leaving and looking, because a lot of employees are staying in place, hiding in place because the market is not great, but they're unhappy. And
Hmm.
when I evaluate the best leaders, and I'm working with some great ones, what are the things I'm seeing in trends in common? It is their empathetic leadership and their ability to truly have conversations honestly and accountably with their employees.
I think that's great advice, especially for some young people are stepping in there and they might not be armed with the knowledge that you have and what you
That's right.
know.
That's right. What did we read? Was it in the Times last week that Gen Z, right, this new generation, the generation
Yeah.
Gen Z is being terminated by their employers at a rate that is alarming, like faster than we've ever seen. And people are like, oh, it's
Yeah.
because it's a lazy generation. They have no initiative, right? They don't take
Hmm.
initiative. And so I look at that and I'm like, it's really easy to blame that generation. They did the
Yeah.
same with millennials. We've done the same with Gen X when they were all in that early
Yep.
20s. And when I really talk and interview and have conversations with the Gen Zs, maybe they don't have initiative, but it isn't because they don't want to do their job well. Most people want to do their job well. What we also need are leaders that are willing to train the generation of Zs and whomever on what initiative is, what follow up is, how to carry the thread all the way through. So it really is putting pressure on leadership to be leaders. Develop
Yeah.
your employees, spend time. If 60 to 70% of your time is in meetings and conversations that are not with your team, then you've got to work out that balance, because the most important job we have as a leader is developing those employees that are entrusted in our care.
I almost feel like each CEO should have their own playbook of what they learned, the history that they pass that on to the next person. Here's my playbook
Mhm.
of wins, losses, all of that, and things
Mhm.
that help me with the culture. And then it just keeps getting passed down and added to.
Yeah.
That would be a great resource for companies.
It would be, and I think it would have to require one thing, we've gotta be honest about it, right? We've got to
Yeah.
name our true opportunities, right? I used to
Mhm.
It's not always easy. When I was early in my career and when I had a large team under me, I got really good at being like, these are my shortcomings as a leader. When I get really
Mhm.
stressed out, I'll start to cancel my one-on-ones. I'll start to
Yes.
pull back and kite away. And so I tell people my tells so that when they
Mhm.
see me doing it, and then I give them permission to hold me accountable. I'm like, and this is how you hold me accountable. These are the
Yes.
things that I will do when I'm overworked, burning out, stressed, insecure, etc. These are my marks. And here's
Yeah.
my permission given to you to hold me accountable. Now, what are yours? And that's how we start to establish that foundation of trust,
Yeah.
psychological safety, that really create the forming of a team that we can actually
Mhm.
collaborate and innovate together.
I love that. You've given us so much information today. I just love that you are just so forthcoming. So I hope you took a lot of notes, everybody. And if not, rewatch this and stop, pause, and write the notes down. So, Lena,
Absolutely.
tell people where they can reach out to you and connect with you.
Absolutely. You can always follow me on LinkedIn, Lena McDearmid. But my company, River, WRYVER, river.com is the website. We post all of our ongoing media that we get, as well as you can follow along on Instagram and soon to be on TikTok and YouTube. So a lot of activity, a lot of fun information, always willing to share little like teaching moments so that we all can take them away and create culture that is going to change the way that our companies grow successfully.
I love that. So connect with Lena. We'll have those links in the show notes. And if you're thinking about becoming an author and want to become an international best-selling author and award-winning, look us up at Elite Online Publishing. We make that happen. And we don't just publish your book, we teach you how to market your book for your business. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great week. Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.